right? And I'll say the same thing about economics, right? My dad has done very well in business, having completely ridiculous views about how the economy works. Just doesn't hurt him. He knows to make his customers happy, knows not to overcharge for his parts business. Other than that, his views about how we need to put a Berlin Wall at the Mexican border do not really have any effect on the way that he runs his business. Okay, so there's some areas that are costly and others that aren't. And again, I'll name areas like religion, philosophy, politics. Areas are basically free. So if we think about there being a demand curve for irrationality, there are some areas where the price of irrationality imposed by reality is pretty high. Like if you believe that you can fly perfectly well under your own powers, you won't believe it for long. You'll jump off a building and you'll die. Okay, all right. So that's a belief that's very costly. We very rarely see. Maybe some 5-year-olds have it. You see them running around with towels on their backs, but usually they won't jump. Okay, so anyway, so the price of that is very high. You'd see a lot less of it. On the other hand, in areas where the belief is basically free, people consume a lot. Right? There's actually a word that economists have for what people do at an all-you-can-eat buffet, and that is they satiate. Right? You keep eating and eating and eating until one more bite of food makes you feel worse than if you do not eat another bite. Okay, so you're so full that you don't even want to eat another bite. So you could say that in areas like politics, people can satiate their demand for irrationality. They can believe whatever makes them feel best because the consequences are so minimal. Okay, now last subject. So irrationality is political pollution. You may say, what's so bad about all this? Why is this inefficient? Okay, someone might say, all right, well, maybe we're just wrong about the whole point of democracy. Maybe the point of democracy isn't to select policies that make us rich and happy. Maybe the point of it rather is to be some kind of therapy session. The whole point of it is just for the entertainment value of electing a guy who makes us feel good about ourselves, and we can all join together and chant. So maybe that's what democracy is really about. So maybe we're judging it unfairly if we say that it selects a lot of policies that make us poor. Okay. The story here is again an economic one. It says, look, yes, the private cost of voter rationality is very low. The cost to one individual of being wrong about politics is indeed very small. However, what we call the social cost is very big. Classic example of this difference between private and social cost is pollution. Right? So if you go and drive your car, the air is going to be ever so slightly lower in quality, but you won't even be able to notice it. You won't even be able to notice the difference. However, if millions of people drive and millions of people pollute the air in a way that is unnoticeable for any one person, that can add up. And it can add up in an awful way. So anyone ever been like Mexico City or Cairo or some other really polluted city where people go around wearing gas masks? Right? It can get really bad. And if you were to go to any one individual driver in Mexico City and say, don't you understand you're killing yourself, stop driving. The person would say, what are you talking about? I'm not killing myself. If I stop driving, I'm going to have to walk, and actually the quality of the air I breathe is going to get even worse because I'm going to have to breathe the air on the city streets rather than filter through the air conditioning of the car. Okay? So from the point of view of any one individual, the benefit of not polluting is very small, even though if everyone were to cut back, it could actually make a substantial difference. Right? So my story then is that voter rationality is a kind of what I call political pollution. Right? The majority can easily be better off if it doesn't get the policies that the majority supports. Okay? So an example that I like here is during the election of 1933, Hitler was elected, basically in a popular election. There were a few irregularities, but not that many. Right? And elected on the slogan, National Socialism means peace. Right? So a whole bunch of people voted for him. Now here's the thing. Suppose that you were one person who didn't join in all the rallies and the demonstrations and all the flag waving, all the swastikas going up. You're the one person who doesn't join in. Do you actually save Germany from disaster? No, right? Because you're just one person. In fact, you're probably sticking your neck out to be singled out by the Gestapo for them to go and do something to you. Right? So if you're the one voice of reason in a place where everybody else thinks that a bad policy is good, the odds that you're actually going to save yourself from disastrous policies are very, very small. In fact, if anything, you're probably going to suffer for your nonconformism. Okay, so this is an area where if most people think that a bad policy is actually good, there's very little incentive for a person to speak their mind and point out the errors. And in fact, there's some incentive for a person to pretend they agree, or even just to, in the words of South Park, shut up and join in the sick, twisted fun. Okay. All right. So nevertheless, it is possible the majority can be better off if it didn't get the policies that it asked for. If someone had come along and said, look, you don't get to elect Hitler. Sorry. We are canceling this election. Hitler doesn't get to win. I dare say that with the benefit of hindsight, the German people, as well as, of course, non-Germans, but the German people in particular would have been much better off if Hitler had not been allowed to come to power. If the will of the majority had been thwarted, they would have been better off. Why? Because to believe that National Socialism means peace, while it seemed to have a great deal of appeal at the time, did not make a lot of sense. Okay, now I have very little time left for remedies, so maybe I will leave that for the Q&A.